everyone, Cherie here with you today, this time with another layout using the Felicity Jane Heidi Kit. Now with this particular page, what I've done is chosen lots of bits and pieces from the kit that have this lovely mustard or yellow colour. So I really want black and white and mustard to be the main colours on this page. However, there will be a touch of blue because I've got that blue denim jacket in the photos, so I'll add a little touch of blue somewhere, probably using one of these reinforcer stickers here on the tag. So for my papers, I've chosen this diamond black and white paper, which will be part of my background. I'll be using some white cardstock, and I've also got the largest tag out of the tag set that came with this kit, and I've chosen the mustard pocket. Now I'm not quite sure if I'll use this as a pocket or whether I'll use it for layering. I'll work that out as I go along, I think. I've got the mustard floral. It's just so pretty. I love this one. And I really want to use one or two of these cute little tassels as well from the kit. The stamps today, I'll be using as many as I can from this awesome Heidi stamp set. I absolutely love this stamp set. There are just so many perfect stamps that I can use on this particular set. I've got my other die cuts available in case I want to add anything else. And I also went through my stash and found this lovely mustardy yellow coloured twine, so I'm thinking I'll use that on my tag today. And I also found some lovely thread in this yellow mustardy colour. So usually I would use white thread with my sewing machine. That's my usual go-to, but for a bit of fun today I might use this yellow. Alright, I'll get into it and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so to save a bit of time, I've gone ahead with my sewing machine and stitched around the tag and around that background white cardstock with that yellow thread that I just showed you. And now I'm ready to do some stamping on this lovely big tag. So I've got the Heidi stamp set from the kit, and I'm just using a selection of the stamps out of this set. There are just so many that I want to include. So I'm just getting them all ready so I don't have to keep fiddling with the pack. And the first one is going to at the top of my tag, and it says "You Are." First of all, I'm just going to pop that little reinforcer sticker into place so that I make sure I leave enough space for it. And I've just stamped that one right at the very top. And next I've got that line stamp that you can see there. It's like a line with a squiggly, like a zigzag stitch over the top of it. Just done a couple of test stamps to make sure I get it as straight as I can. And now that one's gone into place. The next stamp I'm using says "Pretty Amazing," and I just love how these stamps are stamping so well first off. Usually you have to do a couple of test stamps with a lot of stamps to get a nice image, but these are stamping up so beautifully the first time. Really happy with them. So that one said "A Rock Star," and now this next stamp says "Beautiful." I just really love that beautiful scripty font that those stamps are in too. This next one says "You Can Do Hard Things." I love all the positive messages these stamps are sending. And now I've got "So Proud of You" underneath that. And right at the very bottom, this one says "Just the Way You Are." Another lovely scripty stamp there. Now to fill in those little gaps, there's also this cute little heart stamp as part of the set. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that one 3 times down the tag. And I like how that finishes it off. I do play around with another little tiny stamp in there. I thought maybe that could go in one of the gaps, but in the end I decided to leave it off. I'm quite happy with how this is looking. So there you go. I'll give you a close-up look at that. Everything's stamped on really nicely, and now I can start adding things to my page. So I've decided to pop that mustard pocket behind the tag, and I've got some of that mustard yellow twine attached to the top of the tag as well, and I'm leaving that tail nice and long. My square photos are going down the bottom of the tag, and I'll stagger those just and add a bit of dimension to those as well. I've got the flower die cut down the bottom, and I will just move this page in a second to show you. I'm sorry, it's a little bit off the page, but you will see there I've got the remember die cut and little happy die cut as well. I also decided to use another one of the stamps, and it says "You Rock." It's a really lovely little circle stamp here, and I'm using a yellow ink from Stamping Up. I think it's called So Saffron, and I love how it matches the yellows, or the mustardy yellows in the kit. So I'm going to use one of my circle punches to punch that out. So I'm just punching out a couple of them just to get the best one to use on the page. So just punch out that first one, and then I'm going to just put it to the left of my photo, and I'll probably add that with a little foam square as well. It just helps to finish off that side of the page. And I've got that curly arrow that I'm going to put on there as well, pointing at back up towards those stamps. Next, I thought I'd add a little bit of vellum behind the photos just to add a bit more texture. So I'm just seeing how that looks, and in the end I decide that piece of vellum is too small, so I'll grab another piece in a moment. But first I'm going to just stick that tag down onto that pocket. And you'll see here in a minute I decide, yep, I do need a bigger piece. So I go ahead and just tear around the edges and scrunch it up nicely, adding a few little tears on those edges as well. And then I can flatten that out and pop it in behind the photos. Okay, so I'm much happier with that. A little bit more vellum coverage, and just going to make sure I've got all the spacing right, and then I can start sticking everything down. So just some tape run on the back of that pocket, and that tag can go into place. So I'm trying not to make it all too straight. Next, I'm just using my tiny attacher to staple that vellum down, and then I can go ahead and add my photos. So I'm going to use foam tape behind each of my photos, and because I want one to be popping up a little bit more than the other, I'm using different thicknesses of foam tape. So I've got the thickest tape behind that second photo, and the first photo I'm using little offcuts of that I've got left over from my little tiny foam dots, and they're just a slightly thinner thickness than the other foam tape I'm using. So then I can stagger those photos nicely, and it just adds some lovely dimension to the page. Alright, so then I've got those little flowers that I want at that bottom right corner there, and then I remember those cute little tassels, so I really want to add those onto this space as well. So what I do is just grab a small piece of white twine, and I'm threading those little tassels onto that, and then I'm just going to tie a knot at the top of it, and that becomes a little loop which I can then staple into place with my tiny attacher. Okay, I thought about adding another staple, but then I realized that sticking those flowers on is going to just help that to stay in place. So again, I'm using some foam squares behind my flowers. Now that one can go onto the page. Okay, next I've got that little stamped circle, the one that says "You Rock." So I've got a foam square behind that, and I'm just using tape runner on the back of that curly arrow, and that sticks on nicely. Next I've got that Remember die cut. Now I'm using a mix of tape runner and foam tape on the back of this one because I've got different heights with the photos. I just need to make sure that fits nicely into there. And then I've got that little happy tag, which I'm just going to use my tiny attacher to staple into place. Okay. So now I'm going to play around with this twine, and before I know it, my camera decides that it's run out of space on its SD card and stops filming. So in a moment you'll see that I've gone ahead, and while my camera was off, I've added some black paint splatters, and I've also just adhered that twine into place so it doesn't move about too much. So you can see those splatters there. My twine, it still moves around a little bit, but I'm quite happy with it. Okay, so just to add a little bit more colour in that top left hand side of the page, I've got this branding strip from the solid colour paper in the kit, and I'm just trimming a piece down which I will then tuck in underneath the edge of that white cardstock, just to add a little bit more colour up there. There we go, just tucked in under there, a little subtle bit of extra colour. And now I'm just roughing up the edges of that cardstock, and then all I need to do is add my date, and this page is done. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing this page come together. Please let me know down below if you've got any questions at all. I'll leave you with some close-up photos at the end, and I'll also pop a link to the Felicity Jane store below as well for you. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again really soon with more to share. Bye for now.